George Santos acknowledged to a New York radio host that he told a string of lies about his education and employment history.
And I'm not going to make excuses for this.
But he's about to make a lot of excuses for it.
But a lot of people overstate in their resumes or twist a little bit or ingratiate themselves. I'm not saying I'm not guilty of that.
In another interview with the New York Post, Santos admitted he did not have degrees from Baruch College and NYU, as he had claimed. I didn't graduate from any institution of higher learning. I'm embarrassed and sorry. We do stupid things in life.
And George Santos has certainly done some pretty giant, stupid things in his life, especially leading up to his election. He is a Republican representative-elect out of New York, and he has finally confessed to not just embellishing, he lied big time on his resume, on his credentials to run for Congress, and that has led to calls from Democrats for him to step down, and of course, Republicans have been pretty silent for the most part. But before I get to their statements, I think it's important to talk about what he has admitted to lying to. So for instance, he never worked at Goldman Sachs or Citigroup, something that he claimed when he was campaigning. And most of his lies were in fact uncovered by the New York Times after the midterm elections, not during the midterm elections, which is, I guess better late than never, but better during the midterms than late, so voters can make a good decision about who they want to elect into office. Now, he also lied about his alleged Jewish heritage. Let's watch.
Santos also addressed scrutiny around his claims of Jewish heritage. On his campaign website, in a section now removed, he recalled his grandparents fleeing Jewish persecution during World War II. I am Catholic, he told the Post, because I learned my maternal family had a Jewish background. I said I was Jew-ish.
Cenk, I mean, give the guy a break. He didn't say he was Jewish. He said he was Jew-ish. Oh, okay, all right. One final thing I'll mention is that he lied about owning 13 properties. Apparently he owns, hold on, 0, and he lives with his sister. Over to you, Cenk.
To which I say, of course. Okay, so look, the Jewish joke is a joke that some folks make and have been making for a long time. Like Malcolm Fleischner, who used to work here, used to make that joke because he's barely religious, right? But Santos is not barely religious, he's barely Jewish. In fact, he's not Jewish at all. Okay, of course he made it up. But look, guys, I think that the lies that he told are telling about our politics. So apparently he thought lying about being Jewish would help him. Maybe lying about being gay might help him. So he was married until recently. It's an interesting quote about how he changed to become gay, which made me think that he's not at all gay. And he lied about being rich because he thought that would help in a Republican primary. Isn't that interesting? Right? He lied about having 13. He wasn't trying to relate to the common man. He's like, no, I'm rich. I have 13 properties. I can do whatever I want, right? And all these things. So, and it was almost designed for both right wing and mainstream media to have them go, oh yeah, this is a guy we like, and not question him. And let's remember, it totally worked.
It did work. Going back to his claims of being Jewish and how he thought that would be advantageous in the election, I don't know if it's necessarily because he thinks identifying as Jewish is helpful, or if he wants to provide some sort of story of persecution in his family's background and how they were able to survive it. People tend to like inspirational stories of perseverance and fighting whatever odds they're dealt. I don't know exactly what was in his mind, but he lied about everything. Okay, so you also referenced the whole, I don't know what his sexual orientation really is. So I want to be clear that we're speculating, but since he's lied about so many major things, I don't think it's far-fetched to question whether his sexual identity is real. And this is what the New York Post wrote about him, because he did grant an interview to the New York Post. They write, Santos, the first openly gay non-incumbent Republican elected to the House, also faced accusations that he lied about his sexual orientation, with the Daily Beast reporting that he was previously married to a woman until shortly before he launched his unsuccessful 2020 campaign against Democrat Tom Suozzi. Now, it turns out that that is in fact true. He was married. He claims that he was married from 2012 to 2017. He divorced the woman he was married to in 2017. And this is what he said in regard to his sexual orientation. Pay close attention to his wording here, because I think there might be some clues here. I am very much gay. I'm okay with my sexuality. And then he says, people change. I'm one of those people who change. Are you saying that you changed your orientation? Or are you saying you changed your comfort level with who you really are? I don't know for sure. But if he's trying to say like, no, I was into women, and then one day I just decided, no, I'm kind of into dudes. It doesn't work that way. So I just thought that was a telling statement.
100%. I've never known someone in the LGBTQ community who said that they changed. I've heard people say they've come out, they've come to terms with who they are. They've always felt it, but I've never heard anyone being like, oh, growing up, I was loved women and I was into girls and I was really attracted to them. And then one day at the age of 37, I woke up and decided I changed and I like men. I've literally never heard that story out of the dozens of people that I know, if not hundreds, and all the stories. So this is of course absurd. But again, interesting that he thought, and I agree with you that on the Jewish part, he's probably just trying to appeal to a heroic family story, that kind of thing. And we don't know the demographics of his district. If it's a significant Jewish population, he might have been lying just on that alone, right? But when it comes to being gay, I've said from day one, I think he was doing it so that he appears to be a moderate Republican, because he lost the first time around being a hardcore Trumper. So the pathological liar is adjusting to more accurately get his mark. And he did, he got his mark, which was the media, which gave him a free ride so that he could win this seat.
I mean, they did give him a free ride. I mean, the idea that it makes more sense to actually investigate a political candidate after they've won the election is insane. The New York Times should have been on this from the jump, but nonetheless, they did release a report that made it abundantly clear that he's a liar, and people do deserve to know that. Now, I want to mention that while there are calls for him to resign, he seems pretty defiant, and he wants to make clear that even though he's a weirdo pathological liar, he allegedly has not broken any crimes. Let's watch.
I'm not a criminal, not here, not abroad, in any jurisdiction in the world have I ever committed any crimes. To get down to the nitty and gritty, I'm not a fraud. I'm not a criminal who defrauded the entire country and made up this fictional character and ran for Congress. I've been around a long time. I mean, a lot of people know me. They know who I am. They've done business dealings with me.
Now, in the beginning of that statement, what he was referencing was some of the criminal charges that he faced when he was in Brazil. He was accused of committing fraud there, which, again, not so far-fetched when you consider the lies and fraud he's willing to engage in here in the United States when it comes to his own resume and his campaigning. And while the GOP on a national level has been pretty silent, or they want power. They're not going to want him to resign. If he resigns, there's a possibility a Democrat could take that seat if there's some sort of special election. And so they've been pretty quiet. On a local level, though, Cenk, they've mostly been quiet too, to be quite honest with you, except there is a statement from the Nassau County Republican Committee chairman who says, while I have indicated that the congressman-elect deserves a reasonable amount of time to respond to the media, voters deserve a sincere accounting from Mr. Santos. I will be listening attentively, and I want to hear meaningful remarks from George Santos. I mean, that's really the only response that I've seen from any Republican. On a national level, there's one GOP leadership aide who spoke to the press on condition of anonymity. And this person says, as far as questions about George in general, that was always something that was brought up whenever we talked about his race. It was a running joke at a certain point, meaning the lies that he would tell. This is the second time he's run, and these issues we assumed would be worked out by the voters. Voters don't have perfect information, clearly. And with the New York Times failing to do an investigative report on this guy as he was running is a good example of how the press really failed voters in this case.
Yeah, the voters aren't gonna sort out anything if they don't know about it. It's absurd. We just constantly ignore the elephant in the room, which is the role of media in how voters find out who to vote for. Where do they get their information? And in this case, again, the guy got a free ride. Okay, look, last things here. Whenever you say I'm not a criminal, you're in a lot of trouble politically. And when you have to
I'm not a crook.
Exactly, it's the old Richard Nixon line. And then he caught himself. He said, I'm not a criminal here. And then he realized that sounded bad. So he's like, or in Brazil or anywhere else. Okay, sure. He got the money from somewhere. And it doesn't appear that it was from his 13 properties or his work at Goldman Sachs, none of which were true. So we don't know where he got the money from. But two things that also are telling of our politics. I mean, do Republican politicians tell lies that are better than these? Generally, all of them. How about the election was stolen in 2020 from Donald Trump? Hundreds of Republican politicians say that. That lie is way worse than any of these lies about whether this dude went to Baruch College or not, right? And then you turn to the lies that all politicians say, that the media 1,000% lets them skate on, which is, no, the millions of dollars I took from in campaign contributions were not bribes. I voted exactly as my donors told me, but it was just a coincidence. That lie is 1,000 times worse and never ever called out by the media.
No, I mean, the media is owned by the same corporations that fund these politicians. So of course it's not going to be called out by the media. We should stop expecting them to. They're never going to. They love the corruption, they're part of the corruption.
Yeah, Anna, my last point on that is that's why this guy is just a difference of degree, not really in kind from the rest of the politicians. They're all liars. It's just a matter of what they're lying about.
Right. Well, I mean, if he remains in office, and it seems like he's defiant and will remain in office, just wait, because he will tell worse lies. I promise you that. I promise you.